From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined with our guest super producer, Ben the Hackett. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. We'd like to begin this evening's show with a bit of a reenactment and historical documentation of a run-in with a troll. Once upon a time, a guy tries to cross a bridge.
Hold it right there,
Says a voice beneath the stones.
Before you pass me bridge, you have to answer a riddle.
Or what?
Says the guy.
Or I'll eat ye.
The guy pauses at the threshold of the bridge.
Fair enough. What's the riddle?
How do you count to 6?
Well, that's easy. 1, 2.
The creature under the stones interrupts.
A fee, a foe, fi.
The thing beneath the bridge pauses, confused.
6.
Says the human.
6 is after 5, you jerk.
The human knew already this was going to be a weird day. This is the old one of the old stories about running into a troll. We love trolls, not the internet phenomenon. I think we made sure to put that in the title here. But the old school trolls, right? The
Bridge trolls.
Yeah, bridge trolls. Also, Ben, can we get some applause there for that dramatic retelling? Yeah,
Just to beef up the single hand clap. Yeah.
I clap loud. It's true. But we move in numbers, which is part of tonight's show. What do you guys think about when you think of trolls?
I think of the little kid going, "Oh my God!" You know, from Troll 2, the movie.
Oh,
which
I think
was a wonderful internet meme.
it is. I think of Justin Timberlake and a bunch of other actors as animated characters singing a bunch of songs.
Can't stop the feeling. That's a banger of a song right there from Trolls the movie, the soundtrack.
I think of films like Troll Hunters, or there's another film called Trolls, which is much more disturbing. But look, we all kind of accept that trolls are creatures of myth and legend these days, outside of arguably a small population of humans in Iceland. As we continue our exploration of fact, fiction, cryptids, mythology, and the paranormal, we had to get to trolls. And spoiler, fellow conspiracy realist, we may have learned the truth. Here are the facts. As we were saying, at least in the United States, trolls are most commonly associated with fiction and, of course, the famous troll dolls. Remember
They
those?
got jewels in their tummies.
Yes, I heard about that extensively because friend of the show and my actual girlfriend, Brandy, was originally super excited by this episode. She assumed we were talking about troll dolls.
Another friend of the show, who shall remain nameless, has a tobacco pipe, let's just call it, that is built to look like a troll, and you put the tobacco in its belly button and you smoke it out of its butthole.
Wow.
Okay, the anti-boof.
Ben Hackett made a face.
He sure does.
Well, I was trying to imagine, okay, you put the tobacco in the belly button and then you go around back somehow.
It's prone. Think of it lying on its back, right? And its legs are kind of up in the air.
Wow.
It's not anatomically correct. Nobody tried to smoke through your friends.
Yeah.
I don't believe trolls have genitals, at least troll dolls. They're like Ken dolls down there.
Interesting. In one of the more disturbing stories I read, recent fiction. You know the guy who wrote Let the Right One In?
Yeah, I don't remember the guy's name, but I love both versions of that film.
He wrote a story that got adapted into another film, and in that story, trolls are closer to the Scandinavian folklore. They are hermaphroditic. Spoilers.
Oh, wow. They got cloacas or something, or no? I don't know about the whole anatomy here. Well, you know what else I think of when I think of trolls? I think of the Rankin and Bass Hobbit movie, and the whole thing where Bilbo and company come upon a band of trolls who very much want to eat them and roast them alive.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned the cannibalistic tendencies, the predatory nature. The story of folklore transmission, I think, is familiar to most of our longtime listeners. Trolls as a concept, the word, it comes from Northern Europe, Scandinavia, the so-called Low Countries, which is a weird joke. It's about sea level. And as
not about taste.
Not about taste.
No, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, as Europeans migrated to what we call the Americas today, they brought their folklore and beliefs along. This is a big part of the narrative American Gods by Neil Gaiman, right? I'm leaning on fiction a lot here. But I think it's pretty obvious, too, that pre-existing native cultures had their own long-standing legends of giants and half-men and monsters and things that were almost but not quite human. So if you think about it, the idea of being an indigenous or Native American and hearing someone tell you about trolls, it would not have been entirely unfamiliar to you. You would have said something like, oh, the stdwytk, right? These other creepy things.
Yeah, we just did that reptilian episode. So, when we were thinking about half man, half human, getting back to centaurs, getting back to what are some of the other things, mermen, mermaids, all kinds of creatures that are, like you said, Ben, almost human, but they got something a little weird going on, usually on the downstairs.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing, wherever you hail from or whatever your origin story or, cultural heritage might be, we are all human at the end of the day. And so we all have kind of a similar set of equipment. Therefore, a lot of the perceptions and fears and things that we develop as individuals, despite where we come from or who we know, there's a lot of parallel stuff going on in things like religion and cultural practices and these sorts of mystical creatures.
Yeah, it's a weird comparison, since we were talking about automotive things earlier. A weird comparison would be, imagine you're a typical American today, and you learn that people in the United Kingdom also have cars, and their cars have trunks, but they call the trunk the boot. It's the same concept. It's a different name.
Over here, we call them frunks, all right? Get it right.
I think that's a you thing, man.
No,
I like it.
It's an Elon Musk thing.
Is that real? Is that true?
Yeah, that's what the Cybertruck boot is called. It's called a frunk. Mm-hmm.
All right, sure, well, to each their own.
Indeed, to each their own.
Who are we to judge?
Hey, did you guys look? I saw a random Instagram that I don't think is real. This is a side note. It was about a Kanye West Cybertruck.
I saw that. I saw that.
It looked AI generated, but it looked like one of those stealth bombers. It was like totally black with no windows, very sleek. He said only one existed. I don't think it was real either, but maybe, you never know.
I saw
fake,
it,
right? It's fake.
I think so.
I elected not to care. I'm sorry.
Same. I did not investigate further, but Matt, I do believe you're right that it is most likely fake.
Okay, just want to make sure. Oh yeah, the internet says fully fake. Okay. Cool.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thanks,
the stories,
Internet.
Yeah, the stories we tell ourselves. One for the etymology nerds before we dive in. The noun troll, now it is thought to be a very specific, distinct creature in folklore, at least the noun. But back in the day, it just meant, it's kind of like our exploration of the Antichrist. It just meant a weird, off vibe. And some people will tell you that originally troll just described anyone who walked weird.
That scans. I could see that.
Like instead of strolling, they were trolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a
The
trundling
ministry of funny walks.
side to side fashion. It reminded me of Charlie Day in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who says he was going by Trundle the Great.
What do they call that thing they do in Dune? The worm walk, whatever. They have to like walk funny so they don't attract the worm.
Oh, right.
That would be a troll. That'd be
They
trolling.
were trolling. The origins of this word are ancient, and the etymology comes far after the fact. So there's a lot of debate, a lot of educated guessing. We can kind of see that the phrase troll, the way we use it now, derives from a Proto-Germanic term, a language that came before all of the Germanic languages, Truslan, or Trolan. And back in the day, it was just a general term for supernatural creatures or supernatural actions.
Dude, can you imagine how guttural a Proto-German language would have been? It would have just been all grunts.
It's basically
all
all battle rap at that point. So you can see roots of this in Swedish terms like trolla, which meant to charm or bewitch, or the Old Norse trolldomor, meaning just witchcraft, just not cool stuff, or maybe cool stuff.
Well, that's really interesting because the mystic kind of goes into there. That's really interesting as like at least what we think of. Well, some perceptions of trolls, I guess. Often,
or that they have magical powers. And others they're just big dunderheads.
Some perceptions of that, right? And what we've learned often in the show when magic is attributed to like a group of people or a creature or a thing, and it's given that kind of mythical, those mythical characteristics, there's fear associated with that creature or being, right?
Well, how does it work in Magic the Gathering?
With trolls?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different trolls. I'm imagining a lot of them with fire. A lot of them
regenerative powers, I think.
Yep, regenerate was one of the original things that trolls had, which is a really cool thing that needs to come back. I don't think that's a mechanic that exists right now.
They're not doing it anymore.
I think maybe it's in there. It's just not. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't played.
We call
in a while,
to
though.
you, wizards. Wizards of the dark, wizards of the deep, of the air, and of the coast.
Of the coast, yes.
Yes.
Philadelphia.
Would having too many regenerative abilities be like an unfair advantage or something? Is that why maybe they got rid of it? It was like game breaky or something?
Well,
Yeah.
technically, too many regenerative abilities is cancer.
That's man.
That's
You really-
proliferate,
yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Cancer is proliferate. Regenerate
Is
is
limited.
It's pretty
limited,
great. So
proliferate.
if a creature with regenerate would be dealt damage that would be sufficient to kill it, you just tap a couple mana usually, or pay a little bit of life, and then that thing comes right back.
And yes, I'm shouting out. I'm shouting out a reference to Flight of Dragons, where they assemble all the wizards. Do you guys remember Flight of Dragons? Doesn't matter. We'll do a dragons episode maybe. So the idea here is fascinating. I think the notes about Magic the Gathering show us like these creatures, the idea of trolls, it exists in the modern day, very much so, and it dates back to Nordic folklore, essentially, from what we can tell. In Old Norse folklore, trolls dwell in isolated, wild areas, craggy rock ranges, distant mountains, and deep caves. It's only later in folklore that we get specific types of trolls, like, a forest troll or a hill troll or whatever.
Yeah. The new Pokemon.
The new Pokemon of folklore. Yes, I love the idea of Pokemon as folklore too.
I mean, isn't it? Isn't pop
Yeah.
culture its own kind of widely proliferated folklore in a way that I
Very
guess
much so.
we accept as being fiction? I think that's maybe the only difference. But I guess some people maybe don't know the difference. I don't know.
Well, give it 28,000 years.
That's exactly right, Ben. People will be worshiping Pokemon as gods.
We conquer this empire for the glory of Charizard.
In the name of Snorlax.
The trolls in myth often live together in small packs or family units, again, in caves. They are not fans of humankind. If you catch them on the wrong day, especially if you smell like one of those modern highfalutin Christians, well then heck, that troll might eat you. That's the idea. The
Can you
ancient
taste better if you're Christian?
They can smell you if you're a Christian.
It's the wine.
Blood of Christ all over you, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a interesting way to deliver a message. So we've got some notes on folklore. We know, of course, there are, as we were saying, a lot of different Venn diagrams, folkloric overlap, ancient sources, oral traditions, sometimes called trolls, Jotnar, the idea conflating them with giants. And the belief in these things is way older than Christianity. By the time Christianity got moved on up to the north side of Europe, trolls were an established concept.
Isn't Jotunheim the land of the giants in the God of War games? And conversely, also in Norse mythology.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, in both.
Cool. Pretty sure God of War did it first, but whatever.
Yeah. Who are we to judge, right? And it wasn't until much later that trolls got more specific attributes, descriptions, abilities. They became distinct mythological creatures. And what we can say for sure is various things have been called trolls. Things that we might not describe as trolls today. They're in, to your point, Noel, they're in mythology all over the place pretty consistently. And today, most people generally do not believe in them. They're just really cool features to put in a story. And no offense to anybody who genuinely believes that there is some sort of 10-foot tall, vaguely rock-like creature that hides from the sun and eats you if you're baptized. If that's your thing, go with it, and we hope it doesn't mess up your day.
If that is your thing, watch the show Hilda on Netflix. It is one of the best shows that I have seen in a long time that I could share with my son, and it deals directly with trolls. And when you're talking about hiding from the sun thing, in this version of it, it's a Canadian TV show. In this version of it, the trolls are like stones that exist.
I was about to say, they turn to stone in the sun in some tradition. Isn't that right?
Well, they're just stones out on the mountainside, like just littered everywhere, just huge stones. And then at night, they turn into, sometimes really dangerous things that attack the village. Other times, as you'll find out, maybe they're not so dangerous.
Well, but that's the thing, though. They're stones during the day because the sun turns them to stone.
Exactly.
I've seen that depicted in other places. That's really I'd forgotten about that. That's
gargoyles.
Cool. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Also, just for the record, the sun sucks. I hate it, you guys.
Yeah. It's been so bad the past
Props
couple days.
to Beavis and Butthead. Oh my God, you guys! I'm in Augusta, Georgia, which is just 2 hours from Atlanta, but it's in a valley, whereas Atlanta's kind of up on a hill a little bit more. And I swear to God, the humidity here knocked me on my butt. Like it is just absolutely completely different feeling, and I had to go indoors.
What's the troll content or troll demographic?
I think there's a decent troll population, but they only come out at night, and I stayed in, so I didn't see any.
Because of the Masters, night golf, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Different flavor of trolls. They're golf trolls are the worst kind.
Classic. We've got different categories of trolls. We've got so much folklore about them. What if trolls are less like a myth and more like a cryptid? Could there be any sand to the legends? We're going to pause for a word from our sponsors, and we'll dive in. Here's where it gets crazy. All right,
hold on. Here's where it gets crazy. You're talking about golf and trolls, and I have Happy Gilmore in my head with Shooter McGavin when he's like, I think it's the last game, or there's that guy that's constantly heckling him. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Mr. Larson was his name, and he's this huge dude. And he's just tells me parking lot, do you guys remember this at all?
Vaguely.
He looks like a troll to me, and he's this huge dude that heckles him. I'm sorry.
Trolls. There you go. No. Carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Happy Gilmore featuring that up-and-coming Adam Sandler.
He's going places, I hear.
I think he's going to get into comedy.
Well, yeah, and Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. Come on.
Great heel.
We know one thing for certain about all human cultures. Just like Adam Sandler, they did and do get up to incredibly stupid, funny, arguably self-destructive things, but they were not any more nor any less intelligent than human beings today. You know, folklore is another communication platform, right? It's as untrustworthy as Twitter or social media in general. It all comes from this noble intention to see and to explain the world around us. So our question then becomes fascinating. Instead of saying, oh, people in Europe back in the day were dummies, we should say, what were these ancient people attempting to explain to themselves, to their peers, to their children? What if trolls weren't mythical giants? What if what we're seeing in these stories is instead an attempt by Homo sapiens to describe encounters with something real, something not quite human? More directly, what if trolls are, in fact, a corrupted story based on encounters with the Neanderthal?
Okay, go on.
We got to learn about the Neanderthal first. What are they? Are they like cave folk?
Yeah, sort of sloping foreheaded, bad posture, slightly bigger than the average bear, a little dimmer too, right? Early man.
That's the idea. Oh, also, shout out to our pals on theme, Eves Jeffcoat and Katie Mitchell, who just casually taught us that highbrow is a problematic term originating from phrenology, right? You can find that episode wherever you find your favorite shows.
But that's just saying the lowbrow of a Neanderthal and the highbrow of a human.
Yeah, that's the implication. Not to be too Dennis Reynolds about it. But Matt, what do you think about when you hear the word Neanderthal?
Well, I think of, again, you go back to popular depictions. I think of the television series The Cavemen.
Based on the ad campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that? Was that Progressive? It was an insurance company, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
Saturday Night Live sketch, Caveman Lawyer.
Caveman Lawyer was great.
There's
that.
Yes.
Just a simple caveman.
Exactly.
But this is a whole series with Nick Kroll, like starring Nick Kroll.
That's right.
But it really was based on an ad series for like an insurance company.
Yeah. But it is, well, as we've learned, okay, now correct me if I'm wrong here. Humans and Neanderthals are very close when you're thinking about DNA, but they are a very specific and separate, not species. What do you call it?
Call them a distinct species.
Is it?
Yeah. I think the proper term we're supposed to use, which we didn't on our previous episode on early humans, the proper term is archaic humans, because we can't call them not human.
Yeah, because they are. It's just, I don't know, before a major split. But we're going to talk about later in this episode about Neanderthals and I guess what would be described as modern humans and mating and how that like changed everything.
Literal kissing cousins. Yeah.
Okay. I see. It's just so confusing to me. Like if they are a distinct species, then how could they even breed, right? How could humans and Neanderthals breed successfully?
Well, they're closer than like a lion and a tiger. And a lion and a tiger can create a liger. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally. That makes sense to me.
I didn't mean that to sound like lazy mumble rap, but
bred for its abilities in magic.
Right. We need to regenerate. This idea, I think, the Neanderthal, first off, has been, and beat me here, Ben, the Neanderthal has been upon for most of modern history. When modern, quote unquote, humans first discovered, quote unquote, the remains of what we would call a Neanderthal. It was like 1829 in Belgium, and the guy who found it just said, "Oh, I found a long dead, very poorly developed human being." This was, of course, also Belgium in the 1800s. So,
talking about Homo neanderthalensis.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think the H is silent, guys.
Dang it.
And later discoveries followed. There were Neanderthal remains found in Gibraltar. And when these things were discovered, these remains were woven into like the social and scientific attitudes of the day. People found weird bones that looked pretty human, but not quite modern human, as they would say. And so they told their own stories to each other about the provenance of those bones. And they usually confirmed pre-existing racist attitudes of Western science at the time. A troglodyte, a literal caveman. I don't even know if we can say troglodyte on air. Isn't that an insult?
I mean, we there are insults that are acceptable to say on air. I love troglodyte. You can't take that away from me. You can pry it from my cold dead hands.
Uh-oh. Let's find out if they will.
Troglodyte, a member of a fabulous or prehistoric race of people that lived in caves, dens, or holes.
I'm sorry, a fabulous?
Fabulous.
Wow.
They had a lot of pizzazz.
I didn't see that. You can also describe a person who is regarded as deliberately ignorant or deliberately old-fashioned.
Or deliberately reclusive.
Someone might use it as a stand-in for a Luddite, you know?
A Luddite is they are troglodytes of technology.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the Neanderthal, mainly, as you can tell, folks, the Neanderthal was always portrayed as kind of a knucklehead, a dimwit, inbred, maybe, to the point about Luddites, a hater of modernity in any form, a real brute, a creature that you would either fear or conquer, or in some cases, both.
So it's basically describing royal families across the leaders of the Homo sapiens, right?
The royal family's going to come for you, Matt?
Do you think they're coming after me?
No. Maybe.
No, you're not related to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's true.
If you're related to them, they'll find you. They'll get you. So, what was that John Goodman movie, Duke of Earl?
Oh,
I
man.
think you're talking about King Ralph.
King Ralph, yes. They sing Duke of Earl.
That's
There you
in
go.
King Ralph.
I just remember that was the first time I ever heard of the British luxurious dish spotted dick.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a pudding of some sort with raisins.
Spotted dick, barley water. They're nailing it with food names. You know what I mean? We got to give them that. I got lost for a second just thinking about the weird food names used in the United Kingdom.
Not to malign British cuisine as a whole. There's certainly
very
some
much to
amazing
malign it.
fine dining opportunities there, but a lot of traditional British food, pretty gross looking.
Very much to malign it.
A lot like the royal. Oh, sorry.
A lot like the royal family. See our stereotypes in play already, and the British Empire still exists. The United Kingdom still exists, and we're blowing smoke at it. Imagine what would happen if you were gone for thousands and thousands of years.
People talk so much trash.
There is no Neanderthal to hop up and do a TED Talk. This is, again, the game of telephone. So there's a wealth of incorrect assumptions about Neanderthals because they fit the social framework of the day. And this stymied, I would say, even crippled science for generations afterward. The more current civilization learns about the Neanderthal, the Denisovan, the real-life hobbits, the early mixtapes of mankind, the stranger the story becomes, because get this, Neanderthals, human. Basically, they're human. They don't have superpowers. They don't turn to stone in the sun. They are mainly reclusive, because they're trying to run from the other humans.
Right. What do people refer to, Ben, when they say the missing link? It's sort of like a piece or a type of Neanderthal that would have bridged the gap between, apes and humans? Or is that sort of along the right lines?
Yeah, it's the in the theory of evolution, it's the chain between the actual great apes that we still observe today and the Denisovans, the Neanderthals. Between those two things,
that's right.
There's nothing there right now. At least nothing that we've found, which would explain everything.
Well, yeah, there's like Homo habilis, Homo erectus, but there's this gap in the literal evolution. You know what I mean?
It's basically the standing up straight thing. Like, where is the full
thing? The chart. I've seen the chart.
Out of the trees, like non-arboreal, and to quote some fans of Dr. Moreau, to walk on two legs, right? The bipedal versus the quadrupedal. Anyway, like the thing is, we know that modern, quote unquote, modern human beings hung out with Neanderthals. We literally know this. This is not a conspiracy theory. We have the receipts to prove it. We also understand that the world was less densely populated with this kind of life form, up till about 40,000 years ago when the Neanderthal population seemed to disappear. But we haven't been kind to the lives of the Neanderthals. We call them lumbering morons. We, again, talk trash about them. But recent discoveries have shown us some amazing things. Like in those caves where the Neanderthals lived, they did practice symbolism. They had some understanding of object permanence, of great philosophical quandaries. They lived, they loved, they were loved, they had kids, they cared about their kids, they buried their dead. They
also laughed, though. I know they lived and loved. We got to know whether or not they laughed.
We know they were sick at music.
Cool.
And drums have crazy resonance. You know what I mean? Like the reverb in there.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm really not joking here, but like early musical instruments, were derived from banging on planks of wood and making different tones, and even like rocks and stuff. Those are really cool sounds. Very cool resonances. Precisely, Matt.
You guys think they survived some apocalypse and they had to move into the caves? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, the world's ending for someone every day, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I bet you're right. I bet maybe there was this Hyperborean pre-Neanderthal situation. Maybe Homo sapiens are the remnant thereof. I think that's cool. Anyway, we know Neanderthals are around. There is a non-zero chance that encounters between the sapien and the Neanderthal may be the formative factor for some of humanity's oldest monster stories. In fact, as we know, some of us in the audience this evening may carry a bit of that legacy.
Guys, before we go to our ads, we're not currently sponsored by 23andMe, but it says on their website here that you can find out if you have Neanderthal DNA. That's really cool.
Sick. Is that an upcharge?
Maybe. Let's go to the ads.
And we're back. Congratulations to everybody who just learned a lot about themselves while at the same time sacrificing some of the most private information you will ever possess.
Listen to our episodes on 23andMe and other DNA
don't feel bad. I did it years ago before it was even that interesting. I sacrificed my stuff for, you're basically European, dude. That was literally what the results said.
They didn't really judge it up any?
They came with some sort of Venn diagram and like a colored map, but I know it's come a long way since then. But
you don't have any Neanderthal?
I don't think they were testing for that at the time. The technology just wasn't there, Ben.
It wasn't there.
I love the idea that somebody attached a Post-it that just said, I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is boring.
Yeah. You're a PhD.
I don't think it's boring, right? You were fascinated. In her 2021 book, Growing Up in the Ice Age, as well as her more recent work from just last year, Rethinking Neanderthals, an archaeologist named April Noel from Canada, University of Victoria, she broke down these questions, like how much genuine consideration have Homo sapiens given to the life form of the Neanderthal. And she notes this DNA stuff we're talking about. She says, quote,
researchers have spelled out the entire Neanderthal genome for multiple individuals, offering new insights into their biology as well as our own. There's no longer any doubt that human beings and Neanderthals interbred.
I thought that was going to be that game where you say in bed after something. You know?
Multiple
Spicy.
experts now agree in bed, and a scientific consensus is building in bed. It is irrefutable that the Neanderthal and the sapien interacted. We may never know the full breadth of these engagements, but we know one species is extinct, and the surviving species or group or whatever you want to call it, people are still arguing about it. The surviving thing carries within its population remnants, flotsam, jetsam of the non-existent group.
Real quick, I'm sure we've mentioned this book on the podcast before, but *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind* by Yuval Noah Harari is a fantastic read and deals with a lot of this stuff in depth in a very, I would say, understandable and intelligent and pretty poetic way.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned *Sapiens*. Harari's doing some great work. Not everybody loves him, but I think I read every book.
I would just say a very good science communicator, you know?
Guys, speaking of communicating science, we've heard a lot about these Neanderthals. We talked about trolls. What do they have to do with each other?
Oh my gosh. What a coincidence that we would arrive at this point.
No, it's right here in the outline.
Yeah.
Oh,
geez. So there is this idea of, we always say it, there's a grain of truth carried in most of these stories that people told themselves over millennia, because we cannot forget that communication and therefore stories are a kind of technology. Indeed, one of the earliest forms of technology. So humans typically will have a pretty insular, self-centered definition of themselves and the universe around them. Like most human cultures, in their native language, their name for themselves is something like the people, or the real people, or the true people.
Or
And
the
everyone
chosen.
everyone who is not that is not a person. Yeah. So think about this. These humanoid creatures, these trolls, in all their varying forms throughout history, they regularly seem to tick a lot of boxes for what we understand about Neanderthals. They dwell in caves. They're suspected of cannibalism. They're reclusive and or unfriendly to modern society.
And they're smoking hot.
well, they may
Everybody's
not.
got a type. Yeah.
They're big buff bodies.
But they may not speak any languages that the modern humans encountering them speak, which means there would be some kind of territorial animosity. First of all, if you encroach on, let's say, where they live, their home, and they can't understand anything you're saying at them, that kind of makes sense. The Neanderthal would be cranky.
Wouldn't you? Someone bust into your house and they go,
He's just
Yo.
like, what? No.
and you're like, hey, whoa, pump your brakes. I don't want to call the cave cops.
And I'm the only one.
Cave cops are
And
serious,
see,
man.
throwing rocks,
Mm-hmm.
telling you.
Yeah. And then eating you, right?
Ooh.
Grinding your bones to make their bread.
Well, maybe,
Fee-fi, faux-fa.
maybe, but I think that's just because everybody else ran away really fast when one guy fell. You know what I mean? So who knows what
100%.
happened to him?
100%. And
Surely.
people needed better OPSEC, really.
But wasn't he a giant, not a troll? Are those things there? We discussed how they were kind of interchangeable concepts, right?
Yeah, interchangeable, right? It's like the question I always think about. There are two versions of it. First, was Goliath tall or was David short? Secondly, when we hear about sea monsters in the age of maritime expansion, were they that big or were the boats smaller?
Yeah, probably a combination. I mean, I'm sure if you saw a whale breach for the first time, not knowing that it was a relatively gentle giant, I would mark that down as a sea monster real quick.
I would my pants. I would other people's pants.
I've told you guys about my night terrors about being in the water with a whale. I know it's not going to hurt me in real life, but like it's just the hugeness of it. It's something that captivates the imagination, and you just
What kind of whale?
A big one that I can't see, but I just know it's there. It's underneath, and it terrifies me. I've had this recurring nightmare since I was a kid.
Guys, I'm seeing all kinds of different stories about how tall David and Goliath both were. Some of the most common, I guess, depictions of David are below 5 feet tall, and then Goliath is just a foot or maybe 2 taller than him. So
But a real beefy boy, though, probably. No doubt.
a real beefy big boy, but maybe David was pretty small.
That's the question, right? And this is the nature of perspective, right? This is what informs a lot of these legends. The idea of trolls as an embellishment on human interaction with Neanderthal has been explored extensively in fiction. William Golding, the guy who wrote Lord of the Flies, wrote about it in a novel called The Inheritors. A lot of academics from Finland are super into the idea. And if we treat folkloric tradition as a story with a meaning, a technology with a purpose, then we can look at some of these more fantastical claims and dismiss them as malarkey. No offense to any non-Christians, but you cannot just smell someone and know they are Christian. You can't smell anyone. You can't smell anyone and know their religious affiliation.
I'm just going to agree with you.
You're right. You're right, Ben. You're right.
I mean, tell us if we're wrong. You know, if you got a thing where you're like the Baha'i clearly smell of raspberries or something.
I just have a real sensitive sniffer. You know, I've got to follow my nose.
Part giant, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think you could probably post up in like a city center on a Saturday and Sunday and just sniff around for like stale bread or crackers and wine. And you could probably
Find
figure
your
out
way to a church.
You can sniff out a Christian or two.
Or just some Welch's. You know what I'm saying? I think it might, I don't know. You could
So
do it.
you could do that with your eyes bound and your ears stopped.
Yeah,
I'll
you
take
could.
that Pepsi challenge any day of the week, Ben Bolin.
It would just have to be a close talk. You know what I mean? You get a little close talk and then
And I get arrested. Yeah. That'd be that. You know what an interesting experiment. We do know. Okay. So maybe that superpower is based in fact, perhaps. But what about the idea that one would turn to stone in sunlight?
Wait a minute. I think the trolls in the Rankin and Bass Hobbit movie do turn to stone.
Yeah, because they make them argue amidst themselves over the
That's right.
campfire.
Yeah,
until
they turn to
dawn.
stone. I'm almost positive. And it's really creepy when they do it because they get all really you start to shake and kind of get all rictus looking.
It's like Electric Light Orchestra.
There you go. Well, I mean, the idea of an evil being turning to stone in the face of a cleansing presence or something that's, representative of life or growth like the sun is super common. I mean, like Medusa, for example, would turn to stone if shown her own reflection, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again.
Or it could turn people to stone, but then you turn that power on Medusa and then, she was turned to stone.
Another derivative of the fantastic mythos of Electric Light Orchestra, or as we call them on this show, ELO.
ELO slaps, dude. I was about to say Mr. Brightside. Mr. Blue Sky is one of my favorite jams. Actually, that's the one people know the most, but there's this album of theirs called El Dorado, and the cover of it's super cool. It's like the ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz and like these kind of witch hands, and there's a song on it, I can't get it out of my head, that I think is in my top 10 favorite songs of all time. It's absolutely incredible. Jeff Lynne is a genius. Sorry, that's my ELO soapbox.
The question is, how did the story of trolls turn into the Scandinavian top folklore story of all time, or one of those top 10? Because what we see is, if you take away the more extravagant claims, right, we can attribute those to the hazard of eyewitness accounts translated over a long period of time, the game of telephone writ large. What we find then, if we take away the supernatural stuff, we find that the folkloric record of trolls checks a lot of boxes for what we know about Neanderthals. They are held in tradition to have occupied what we call Scandinavia long, long before humans in the north, or sapiens in the north, I should say. They were called the Old Ones. They're described as unattractive relative to humans. They're not socially oriented. They're relatively elusive. Maybe they were prescient of this other encroaching life form. Maybe they didn't so much smell the different Homo sapiens, but they sensed them in the fact that resources were being, taken from them, right? Animals were being hunted. I guess plants were being gathered. Humans have fire by this point, so stuff was burning.
Dude, it just occurred to me that fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. That is probably referring to a member of the Church of England, right? Yeah. That never occurred to me until this moment. That's wild.
Yeah. And I hope we are forgiven for our, again, completely accurate historical rendition at the top of this episode. There's a great article by Patrick Hunt writing for Electrum magazine, who notes commonalities between descriptions of trolls and what we know about Neanderthal.
He says this, some of the commonalities between known Neanderthal features and habitats and the folklore around trolls include heavy, large-boned skeleta, thick-skinned for cold insulation, cave dwellers, pronounced brows, broad-based, possibly large, fleshy noses, living in remote or montane topography, aka mountain trolls, or bjergtrolda in Danish, or loci not considered optimum by increasingly sedentary humans. Let's unpack that real quick. Loci, like as in like locus of control? Like, what is loci referring to here? I'm a little. That's a big one.
Is it locations? Like that concept?
Yeah, just that. Loci is like saying area with a tie on.
I don't think I've seen it used that way before. That's cool.
Well, the argument is that the sapiens became an agricultural enterprise, right?
So is that what they mean?
Hunting and gathering. So the humans, or the Homo sapiens here, because of the new practice, the newfangled practice of agriculture, they're not ranging as widely. They're not going into the mountains. They're not delving into the caves.
Right, and they're not delving in the caves. They're not going to the mountains, and they're not trolling around those mountains, right? They're hanging out by the farm now because, hey, man, we got all these crops. We can't go anywhere.
We got all these potatoes.
So often, they'll get potatoes later.
Fair.
Every so often, one of them may venture into the craggy wild, and every so often, something may come from the caves. Right. And modern humans treat trolls and Neanderthals like the same kind of creature. These are dumb. These are scary. These are evil. They're both often presented as the quote unquote bad guy by the same life form that probably assaulted, murdered, and ate them in at least a few cases. We know that Homo sapien hunted, killed, and consumed Neanderthals. The closest, this is an unfair comparison, but the closest analog we could imagine is a scenario where you say, hey, I'm based in, I don't know, name a state, or right, any state but Georgia.
Saskatoon. No.
Okay, I'm based in Saskatoon.
There you go. Thanks,
the people who live the people who live in Maine are way too different. We should hunt them and eat them, and maybe assault them,
and then salt them.
But that's a may, right? Humans may have been eating Neanderthals, or do we have evidence of that?
We don't have. You're right. We don't have smoking gun hard evidence. Like there's no written documentation from the Rosetta or whatever where someone says, I will always fondly remember that time I ate a Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
I mean, Charles Darwin sure would have if he gotten his hands on one.
Yeah, he would have 100%. It's good that he's not here now. I love the face you made there, Matt. So, what? No, it's fine. It's good that Charles Darwin is not here now. He would have eaten things.
He would have eaten us all.
He might have eaten like a phone. You know what I mean? He would think he discovered that too. He ate everything he discovered. It wouldn't work out well.
He'd have a really popular TikTok that's like, will it digest? And he's
There
just
it
like
is.
trying all the stuff.
So we can provably verify the physical characteristics of Neanderthals. We do have circumstantial, if not conclusive, evidence of cannibalism, similar to the story of the stdwytk here in the United States. But because trolls are considered mythical beings, getting a hold of a specimen or remnants thereof that we would call a troll has proven pretty tricky, you know? And then, of course, we can fast forward through some of this. A lot of people listening tonight might say, hey guys, for a long time, modern humans or AIs or chat GPTs at all, we know there's no evidence of the Neanderthal in Scandinavia, but you didn't think about the climate.
What's that? About the climate?
You didn't think about the climate. This is thousands and thousands of years in the past. Ice ages come and go, interglacial periods. The northern reaches of Europe and Russia could have easily supported Neanderthal populations.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And the caves? Very nice when it's hot out.
Yes. Yes, think about the caves.
Or cold. It could be freezing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, why build a house when you can live in a cave? Why learn to build a house?
Yeah, man. Earth already made you one. And it's huge. And it's climate controlled.
Yeah, we're looking like a bunch of suckers right now, aren't we?
Seriously. Hey, guys, I got a bunch of wood and glass, so let's live inside there. The temperature will modulate just as it does outside. It's great.
That's a disturbingly good point, and I'm kind of upset that we have to pay mortgages and rents.
Seriously, but we won't get wet.
Exactly. Oh man, I was just talking with my buddy who I'm staying with about how both fire and water are two things that are necessary to create life, but also on their own can destroy everything. Water will disintegrate your house if you do not keep it in check, and fire will just burn it down.
Robert Frost was right. Maybe that's nominative determinism for us, but what was that poem? Fire and Ice? Worth it.
Yeah, The Song of Ice and Fire by Robert Frost. Classic fantasy.
I have opinions about Robert Frost. Love to hear yours, folks.
Didn't he do the two roads diverged in a yellow wood?
Mm-hmm.
And
he did.
Knowing which was bloody blue, I took the path less traveled. I don't remember from.
And that's made all the difference. Yeah.
It's made all the difference, exactly. And then it explodes. No, that's a different poem.
Ben, would you say you've cooled on Robert Frost?
I'm still hot about it.
Okay.
The opinions are strident and subjective, and we'd love to hear yours. Also, always send us your favorite literary references with Neanderthals and trolls. If this connection holds true, wouldn't we expect legends of something like trolls to be most prevalent in areas of the world where we can prove a longer lasting Neanderthal population, right? Like, even past the ice ages. In short, and I'm cursing a lot in this episode, we have to logically ask, what the happened in Scandinavia such that an encounter or series of encounters could survive transforming into legend over the course of like 28,000 years? How terrible was that day? Someone might have walked over a bridge and had that riddle.
Yeah, I'm trying to see it in my mind how it morphed that far. But just as you said, time is the thing that will change anything and everything. Most assuredly, time's going to change it. And if it really is 28,000, 30,000 years, I bet nothing. I bet it was almost nothing. It was like, there was an animal, some kind of animal under the bridge, and it kind of scared me, but I just kept going, and I got here a little faster than I normally would because I was running, and it turned into this.
And thousands of years later, someone's like, this thing was huge.
Yeah.
It was maybe made of stone. There were rocks nearby.
Yeah. It made me answer riddles.
Oh, wait. The guy makes it back to the village or the tribe. And they're like, what happened? He said, no, I'm done with riddles for today.
That's it. And it all just... Now it's a troll.
Cool. Everything's fine. This also, I think, gives us another idea, right? So if this relationship, unproven, between trolls and Neanderthal is correct, then the most important thing to realize is that the trolls are still here. The call is coming from inside the house in the most real sense of the idiom. What does this tell us about humanity today, humanity in the future, whatever the thing we call humanity will become? I don't know. I think it just tells us winners write the history.
Yeah. It tells us that the term troll for that thing some people do on the internet, really, it kind of fits.
I mean, I'd agree with that. Yeah. The more we learn about the Neanderthal, the more we see the bad guy of prehistory was a relatively sophisticated, empathetic life form. Same questions, same fears, similar hopes and dreams of its sapient cousin, but perhaps it was just different enough to be seen as prey. And, just perhaps, a lot of legends about trolls are a slow cultural reckoning with the sins of the human past.
Slow clap. No, it's well said, Ben.
I don't know. We could be completely wrong. If you're a troll, like an actual, as our pal Lauren likes to say, an actual facts supernatural troll, and you're hearing this, write in. Let us know. We'd love to hear your opinions. We try to be easy to find online.
That's right. You can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist all over the internet, on Facebook, where we have our Facebook group, Here's Where It Gets Crazy, on YouTube, where we have video content rolling out every single week, and on X, FKA Twitter. You can also find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff Show on Instagram and TikTok, but wait, there's more.
We also have a phone number. It's 1-833-STDWYTK. Call in. Tell us your examples of trolls that you think about when you hear that word. Tell us what you think about this episode. Tell us anything and everything. We want to hear from you. When you call in, give yourself a nickname, and you've got 3 minutes. Say whatever you'd like. Just include at some point in there if we can use your name and message on the air. If you've got more to say than can fit in that 3 minutes, why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
The entities that read every single email we receive. Be well aware, folks. Sometimes the void writes back, would love to read your prose edda. That's a reference for maybe a few people here. All you have to do is drop a line, send us a link, take us to the edge of the rabbit hole or the cave, and we shall do the rest. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.